I see a note that it's streaming live. So
Yes, it's connecting right now. It's filling its bar up, and now it's connected.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Board work session today, March 29th, 2021. We have a relatively short agenda tonight, but there's one project on the agenda. That's 1 North Country Road, the site plan development on that project, the former Lobster House. We'll be getting into that in a minute. We have a couple of housekeeping things to do first, and then we'll proceed and talk about that project, I'm sure, in some detail. First item on the agenda is to approve the March 11th draft minutes. Laura or Barbara, you have any comments?
Sorry about that. Were we just going to wait until the 8th on the draft?
Oh, actually, we are because of the bond. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
right.
I thought maybe you were checking if there were any other comments.
I did have one. I'll give that to you. It's minor.
Okay.
Under, actually, it's 1 North Country on page 4. 1, 2, 3, third paragraph. Last sentence says there's no problem widening the road. Instead of widening the road, just say widening Thorn Lane.
Okay.
And then I thought that's all I had. So we'll be voting on those at our next meeting on April 8th.
Okay.
I guess, Rebecca, do you have something, or you're just going to listen tonight? You have no report.
Oh, her mic is off.
Sorry about that.
Oh, there you go.
No, just going to listen tonight. No report.
Okay.
If I have a report, I'll deliver it at the regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Well, the next meeting is April 8th. That's the next item on the agenda, just to tell everyone that. So we'll have a work session meeting and a public hearing on 1 North Country Road. With that being said, why don't we move into 1 North Country? I know you probably, Lisa, have probably people in the waiting room, or at least one person in the waiting room to come on and talk about that project.
Yeah, I think Jen, did you want to, I think this was a planning board work session to discuss any issues of the planning board, and there are 2 people in the waiting room. So if we have questions, we can bring them in to clarify or answer those questions. But if you want me to bring them in right now, I can. One is a phone number, I assume an international call, and one is Rob Gito. Okay.
Unless they say that they want to be brought in, I thought there was going to be one person plus the others that weren't going to be on, just were going to listen tonight. But that's fine. Do I see a chat message, or is that?
That was from Rebecca.
Okay. Okay. Well, they are listening. They are in a waiting room. So why don't we just move on and just talk about the project? And with that being said, Jen, why don't you walk us through? I guess you'll go through the draft staff report.
Sure, be happy to. Did everyone get a chance to go through it?
I did. Have you shared that with the applicant?
I have.
Okay. Any feedback at all yet? I'm sure it's.
I got preliminary, just a small amount of feedback today from Eric Russo, agent for the applicant, that I think the applicant is now considering adding more retail to the ground level. But I mean, I think he could speak to that. We received some plans on Friday, so I'm a little bit confused as to whether those are plans that we're supposed to be looking at, where a lounge is now called a game room. So I haven't even, they arrived sometime on Friday. I don't work Fridays, and I haven't really had a chance to look them over today. So I realized, I think you know, one of the first comment that I made in the staff report was a correction about the percentage of the ground level, the proposed project that is in fact a permitted use. and it is a mere 7.6%. The square footage of the ground level that was listed did not include the garage level space. And since that is part of the building footprint, it should have been, as it was in a similar mixed use project downtown. And actually, the C2 district is a little stricter about mixed use in C2 is a permitted use, whereas downtown in C1, it's a conditional use. However, it's a permitted use as long as you have a permitted use on the ground level. And those permitted uses I listed, and they're not exactly the same uses that are allowed downtown either. So I think it's sort of important to think of this mixed use in terms of, you know, what is the permitted use as of right project, not a conditional use, that a substantial portion of the ground level should have a permitted use on it.
Okay, and that was the reasoning behind the expanding the retail.
Mhm.
And it's,
And making it sort of more accessible to the rear of the building for easier access to, I think it just makes for a better planned, perhaps more successful space.
right. Now, are we allowing retail and office on the first floor? Then would
We do.
Office would also be an acceptable use when they expand the retail.
Yes, absolutely. So I listed toward the bottom of the page, those are the permitted uses
Mhm.
in C2. So it can be any number of things.
Yeah.
Retail stores, personal service, daycare center.
I see the artisan manufacturing's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we had talked a little bit at the work session with, I know retail is tough right now with the pandemic happening. But you have the opportunity for somebody who has an apartment in the building, might want to have an office in the building too, and live and work at home. So.
Gil had also emailed his comments
Yes.
because he's unable to make it today. And I believe his comments support. Did you guys have a chance to see his comments? Okay.
Yeah.
He's very much in favor of that as well.
So has the applicant discussed how big the retail is going to be? Or the changes they might make? I mean, when will that happen before our next meeting?
No, but they may know. I don't know if you want to bring them in to get their thoughts on that now or wait until the public hearing. It's up to you.
We could wait till why don't we wait till the end? Anything we want to,
Okay.
you know, because we may have other things too. Instead of, you know, bringing it in and bring it out, just do it at the end. Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Hi, Tom.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I have not yet received comments from Pat Lenahan. He was the traffic engineer consultant for the applicant. He was going to provide data that looked at, I think he said 10 projects. Was that right, Ray? On Long Island that compare actual parking needs to what's required.
Mm-hmm.
And was there something else he was looking into?
I think we talked about transit-oriented developments,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we had said that it would be appropriate to look at some development near a train station that has the similar commuting options and times. So, for example, Patchogue would actually be appropriate in terms of times, and Patchogue does have, you know, is considered a TOD as well. But it's a lot different than looking at a project in Western Nassau County or even Western Suffolk, because the train times are different.
Right.
So that was an important thing. And
I think we also talked about Rob Gito offered to, was that correct, Laura, to provide information about actual needs at the hills.
Yeah, because that's that's like apples to apples.
Mhm.
And that's fully rented or leased.
yes, and they had actually said that the parking was consistent with the village requirements, that there were not as many parked cars there as you might think.
However, that project didn't have the relaxed parking requirement. So they were
Mhm.
required to provide about 50% more parking spaces.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could actually see some real data from that,
Yeah.
like how many people are parked there, in particular overnight when most people are home.
Yeah.
Overnight during the week.
And even on Saturday nights, possible visits and guests, even though now it's probably limited, but you never know.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, there was, so.
Yeah, Jen, I would assume that the plans you got, they are next, have revisions to them and they want us to look at them, but unfortunately, you didn't have any time to look at them.
I haven't seen that many revisions, to be honest,
Okay.
but I didn't get a chance to really look at them closely.
Yeah.
And I saw in your staff report about the revised elevations.
Mhm.
Is that what you sent out, the last revised elevations?
I sent, yeah, so those were sent out
Yeah.
the
Can
day
we-
I got them, I think, and we can pull them up if you'd like.
That would
Want to
be,
talk about those?
that would be
Sure.
good. And just, can you talk about what the differences are?
Sure.
Let me,
I don't know if we can do a split screen, but I can point out on the revised ones what
Let's-
changed.
were these the ones you sent me? Are these the revised ones, Jen?
I think so. If you scroll down, I'll be able to.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's take a look at, we can start with the west elevation. If you look at the northwest corner, so the turret on the left side, it's got considerably more glazing, more windows.
Mhm.
There's some even very high pointing at this as if you can see high transom windows. And I think even the spandrel width, those black where the floor lines are, those look like they were decreased a little bit as well. The cornice color changed, so that the very top in the former iteration, the cornice was black. So I think the intention might be to add a little more lightness to the elevations. Similarly, on the turret on the other side, it looks as if there is a little more glazing, a little more windows at the very top, very high transom windows. What else did I list?
Actually, before you leave this section, you have the potential art spaces here. Maybe you want to
Right.
point those out.
Yep. So the niches, particularly the ones to the north. Yes, thank you, Lisa. The larger ones. Those are, they're not, I guess they're niches. That's grill work. And I suppose it covers up maybe a niche behind them. The trustees recently approved an initiative to require property owners of buildings that are vacant to provide artwork, and a way to enliven the streetscape, to provide artwork in the windows of their vacant buildings. And I think, piggybacking on that idea, to enliven the sidewalk as you're walking past this. I think that presents an opportunity as well as display space.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know what the applicant, ultimately, or if they've taken that recommendation to heart, but I guess we will see. So on the, I think one of the, let's see if we're still on the north elevation, I believe one of the bays that was black has been changed. I think that, I think the former elevations had more of the sort of dark gray siding, and that was changed to white. So I think it's been an effort to make particularly the northwest corner feel more light, less, sort of dark and heavy. And I think it largely succeeds.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, Lisa, maybe we can quickly go to, I think I sent you the old sets of plans, and on sheets 7 and 8 of the older plans, we should be able to look at what the elevations were at the last meeting. There's no way to put them up simultaneously, is there?
I could try. Let me just first pull them up from the last meeting.
The ARC opted not to meet today because the physical samples of the siding and paint colors and the applicant hasn't received them yet from the manufacturers. So when they come in, the ARC will.
Okay.
Meet to review the revised elevations.
Did you send them today, Jen? I'm looking through my old meeting and
I thought so, but I can send them again if you want.
yeah, that would be great.
Okay, let me. Sorry, guys. Oh, I know why. It's a very big file, and I couldn't attach it to the list. But as a single attachment, it looks like it's gone through.
Okay, good. Yeah, I must not have downloaded it last time because I don't see it in my old file either.
Okay, you should have it, I think.
I don't have it yet. I'll tell you what, is it in the G drive?
It is. Did you refresh your?
Let me try one more
Strange.
time. Sometimes.
It's definitely in my sent now.
Up, it says I'm receiving something, so just give it a minute, I guess. It'll be here. All right. Now I have it. Okay.
Now you'll have to remember what the revised elevations like.
Yeah, what I can try to do, I don't know how this is going to work. I can try to share both screens in a split screen format, but let me set that up before I hit share. I don't know if it's going to work because they're so big that to see them, we may need them in the longer, bigger format.
Yeah, if you guys are on the meeting on your phone, they're going to be tiny.
Yeah. All right. Let's see if I can. Almost there. Trying to create a split screen, but I don't know. I may just have to go back and forth between them. Might actually be the
That's
best
fine.
way to do it.
Sure. So I think they're on
Okay.
pages or sheets. Ooh, I want to say 8 and 9. It's something like that. Let's see.
Okay, so
These are, yeah.
these should now be
Yep, these are the old ones.
the old ones, and I can flip between those and the new ones.
Oh,
So we can't look at them simultaneously because I think I'll have to make them too small for you, but we can do this.
Yeah.
so if you scroll down a little, you can see the north side, and that's the portion on the right there is a lot more black.
Right. I think it feels much heavier.
The building, as you mentioned too, Jen, the building trim at the top was black, now it's white.
Mm-hmm. The spandrel width has changed. You know, those are the sort of lines that break up the fenestration that at the floor levels. I think it's.
I can show the old one in comparison, or so the new one in comparison. So.
Yeah.
I think they're all really positive changes.
Yes, I think that's the reaction we got at the last meeting too from the board.
Yeah. It's a very nice, aesthetically pleasing building.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want me to show, Jen?
I don't think so. No, I think, I don't know. Are board members, are you?
We may want to
mind?
look at the site plan later, but I don't know right now. We've seen it before.
Okay.
So you might as well just continue, Jen, through the
Okay.
report.
Yep. The fire marshal, it turns out, didn't think widening Thorn Lane was necessary. And I think ultimately the applicant decided not to pursue widening the road at all. But I think, Barbara, you had some comments regarding that, right?
I just felt that if you had two lanes exiting Thorn, one where you could turn right, the other one turn left, it would help to avoid a backup. And Thorn doesn't have any curbs right now. And I'm assuming that the trees on the west side of Thorn Lane are going to go. And perhaps a little room can be gained where the new curbs are placed. But I just feel that it's a tight street, and I understand not wanting to physically widen the road. But if there is 33 feet that you can play with, perhaps just moving the new curbs will help. I just can't see people waiting to either take a left or right-hand turn because somebody in front of them is blocking the way.
Yeah, that's a good comment. The only thing you have to be careful about there is a person turning right is looking to their left. And if the car next to them, it might block their view. So they have to keep pulling up. And if that car on the left, in the left lane to turn left is even further up, then they're in a little bit of a tricky situation.
Sure, but
Um, yeah,
it could
maybe
also
this,
create a lot of frustration too. And a frustrated driver can also create a tricky situation, so to speak.
right,
If you know what I mean.
we know it backs up there, and there's a lot of waving going on when traffic is stopped. Somebody will let you come out. And we talked last time too about ultimately when Uptown develops a little further, that Perry Street will be made one way east so that a lot of that traffic can come off North Country and go over to Perry, which
I'm sorry, what's going to be made one way going east?
Going west, right?
one
'Cause
way
we've
going
got-
west. I'm sorry. Yeah, one way going
Because
west.
Perry is
Perry
going east right
is
now.
going to flip eventually when those developments adjacent to it really get going.
Will, will there be a light there then?
Yes. Yeah.
So that you can go south?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a bit of a dog leg, but right.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
bit
not
of a
lined up
dog
with
leg.
Linden.
Yeah, but it's what's the
Put
street on
over.
the west side? That's one way
Linden.
west also.
Mhm.
So
Linden, yeah.
yeah. So it'd be only right turns into, there'll be no traffic coming out of there. Or there is now. There is none now. There won't be any in the future. But that was an idea to try to get some of those left turn, really the left turners onto going south on 25A. Want to make a left turn across the tracks. That's the biggest backup there right now. So that would be reduced, at least on North Country. So that will take a little time. So we could ask them to look at that, you know,
Mhm.
if there's even pulling the curb radius back so you can get a car on the, it wants to go right, can get around the left turner.
That's what I'm
It's tight
thinking.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a fire hydrant right on that corner. Sorry about the noise. There's a fire hydrant on the corner there. Is that going to be an obstruction? If they do pull back the curb?
Oh, they would have to move it. The applicant would have to pay for it because it's their project. That's causing it to be moved.
and Barbara, did that address the concerns that were brought up by the community on Thorn?
No, their concern was the curb cut into the complex, that the only curb cut as the plans show right now is from Thorn Lane.
Right.
And there are two other curb cuts currently onto North Country Road. One was from the florist and one was from the Lobster House.
Okay.
And we just felt that a second curb cut would help alleviate. But I think that the fact that the Thorn Lane curb cut into One North Country Road being the only curb cut was their concern.
That was their concern, not the width of the road or.
No, they didn't mention that at all. It was just they felt that they have problems getting in and out of Thorn Lane as it is with the traffic backup. But, that was in their, I guess it was a petition.
Yeah, that's what and I just
Mhm.
remember that you had really looked at that, and I just wanted to make sure we addressed
Yeah.
all the concerns that were in that petition.
Mhm.
Yeah, we could talk more about it at the public hearing too.
Sure.
Okay, I guess it's back to you, Jen.
Okay. In terms of, well, I'm hoping that the applicant may continue to consider a rain garden design at
Mhm.
the landscape buffer on Thorn. It is a landscaping strategy, and the landscape buffer is required by the code, and it's Suffolk County Planning Commission has also listed rain gardens, as a way to mitigate stormwater runoff. I think it's part of sustainable infrastructure that should be given a serious look.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay, we talked about. So, this the two main road, well, we've got Thorn Lane, which is a very small road, but the two sides of this fronts on two of the village's arterial roads. We don't have a lot of leeway in terms of how improvements along the state road, Main Street, but we have a greater right-of-way width along North Country Road to work with, and I think trying to design a landscape buffer that's quite generous, say 5 feet wide along the street, would provide a lot of pedestrian comfort.
I'm sorry, Jen,
Yeah.
the buffer that is pre-existing with the frontage on North Country Road, the one that the Lobster House had, how is that about the size that we're asking for?
No, it would be wider. I think that's only about 2 feet wide or so.
Oh, it seems so much deeper.
It may be slightly deeper, but again, like the Conifer project, that's a long expanse of southern exposure with apartments above. I think it provides a good opportunity to plant street appropriate trees for shading in the summer, deciduous trees that will provide shading in the summer eventually, and really protect, because there is no parking lane along there. I think pedestrians tend to feel much more vulnerable walking there, and if there is a robust landscape buffer there, I think that would go a long way to mitigate that discomfort. And we are, one of the objectives uptown is to create, a walkable community. And I think to try and encourage that comfort is important. So,
Yeah, you mentioned the rain gardens too. They'll reduce the runoff into the catch basins, so it actually saves money on the catch basins. I mean, some of the water, and it usually requires a lot of landscaping too to make it, functional. But
right.
I know the developer is willing to do landscaping, so it seems like a good thing to explore. Hopefully, there's some room in there to get some storage of water.
Right, and well, I think on Thorn Lane, they're required to put by code, a 20-foot landscape buffer. So within 20 feet, they should be able to perhaps not capture all of, maybe half the parking field. I haven't looked at, and I don't do rain garden design, but
yeah.
I'm sure there's an opportunity to capture part, if not all, of the parking field runoff.
Yeah, probably partially, not all of it. Okay.
Let's see. So I think we will have to go to the plans, Lisa. So
Sure.
that was a large file that you just got.
Okay.
And I think the first sheet will be enough for that. Is that where yeah.
Okay.
Great. So these 3 parcels are on the boundary of the RO, so 2 residential districts, the RO district to the northwest and the RB2 on the east side. And 250 attachment 2 requires that structures in the C2 within 25 feet of a residence district boundary. The side and rear yards will be looked at, reviewed, and considered by the planning board and it is the planning board that sets them. So are we on the first? So it's a little bit difficult to read. The parcel has 3 exposures, so one can argue that the distances, so we'd be looking at a side yard. And the side yard to the RB2 district is indicated as 14.84 feet. So that's at unit number 106. You can see a dimension line from the east wall right to the district boundary. So the applicant is proposing that that side yard setback be 14.84. I find that fairly reasonable. The house is fronts onto at that lot fronts onto Thorn Lane and is some distance from the edge of the structure. The rest of the C2 lot is proposed as parking field, which will be shielded all season with evergreen shrubs, so that there'll be screening there. So I think, well, I'd ask, it's your decision, obviously, and for you to consider, but.
And is that similar to the screening that the Gitos put downtown in the CVS lot, where that standalone house is surrounded by shrubs?
Yes, I think so. I don't know that they've provided, they may have identified all of, but yes, I think that the screening's got to be at least 6 feet tall. Well, it has to provide and year round. So yes, I would imagine it is.
Okay, because the plantings that are in that lot around that house seem to be working very well. So if this is similar, I think this is great.
And the second setback is to the RO district, and that's also at unit 106 at its northwest corner. Yep, thanks, Lisa. 5.44 feet. While that may seem very small, I suspect that if and when the vacant lot to the north is developed, that it will likely, well, it will have to comply with the setbacks for the RO, but I suspect it will also follow the jog that in the little piece that juts out. So that's 15 feet. So, I mean, I suspect whatever, won't follow the irregular property line there. I suspect that it will be taken off of that line. So that it's close, but again, there is planting screening proposed, and it's for you to consider.
Would you like me to pull up the tax map to show the aerial of those property lines?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that would be helpful.
I think I happen to have it right
and
here.
the empty lot, Jen, is owned by the Wayback?
Yes.
So can you see that? I think this is the lot we're talking about, right?
Right. And I think, I mean, it looks like a very small lot. I doubt, well, yeah.
So in all likelihood, that'll be a buffer on the other side, so. Because
I
of the
suspect
jog.
so. Yeah, you can't know for sure. But that district, it too has its setbacks.
what is that long rectangle? Yes, what is that?
That belongs to
That's part of the way back
the
property.
way back.
Oh, that's
So the-
weird.
And I think years ago they looked at, and I'm not even sure that it complies size-wise, size-wide.
That's not the driveway that goes from, in
Does look like
behind?
it.
No?
Looks like there's a little shed on there, is that?
Yeah. Why did I think that was part of the property?
Because I think it's used as part of the other property, or it was, though it is not
Yeah.
technically part of
I
the other
don't
property.
think is that shed still there? I have to look at my,
Can you zoom out a little so we can see the residents on the north? Yeah. Yeah. West. Let's see. Are they right up to their property line?
These aerial maps aren't exact, but it looks like they're
Oh.
pretty much on their property line.
Yeah.
Because I'm just wondering how, a shrub is going to, 6-foot shrub. They'll be right next to that.
it will be next to the parking lot.
There will be a vinyl fence, I believe. It says 6-foot vinyl
Yeah.
fence. Am I right? And then the shrubs.
And then the shrubs, right.
Okay.
So that looks like an existing non-complying.
I'm trying to circle it
Condition.
with my mouse, but that's not helping.
This year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the building, Jen, you were saying would end kind of probably around.
Right, the building in
Right
its
here.
entirety is on the front lot, the lot fronting on Main Street, right?
Okay. I think you're probably on the final page of the report, or?
I am, and if you need some time to visit the site, you don't have to declare those setbacks adequate today if you'd like to do a site visit or think about it some more. but
I
at some
would. Do
point-
we have to, can we just go as single people without having to go as a group?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact,
You mean to visit the site?
Yeah, like, do we have to say that we have to meet at a certain time and it has to be a certain number of us, or can we just go and look?
No, you can just go and look.
Yeah, it can't be more than 2 people.
Okay.
If it's more than 3 of you, we have to note. If it's 3 or more, we
Right.
have to
If you
notice
go
it
as a
publicly.
group, it becomes a little more involved, right?
I do have a question, pardon me, about apartment 106.
Mm-hmm.
Is that physically on the ground, or is it raised a little the way that the ground floor apartments at the Hills is raised up off the property?
If that's a good question for the architect or the applicant. It has its own, I mean, I've wondered if it's perhaps an on-site property manager maybe, because it looks like it's at the elevation of the parking lot. It has its own private entrance into the hallway.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh. But so does 105. Shares that entry,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah.
Because on the screening, I think that if that apartment is physically on ground level, the screening's going to be a little bit different than if that apartment is like 3 feet off the ground.
The screening.
Because if it is on the ground, the screening, I think, would be more, what's the word I want? It would work better, than if the apartment itself is raised up like the Hills are.
I see. So perhaps we can ask the applicant. I'm not sure. So I know that I can see that the finished floor elevations for units 101 to 104, they are higher
Mhm.
than the finished floor level, say, of the retail office space, which is slightly higher than the elevation in the parking lot. Or yeah, looks, but I'm not sure how, yeah, those N2 units are being treated. It's a good
Jen,
question.
if we looked at the elevations again, we could see how the windows line up.
Yeah, I think that, yeah,
If
we
you're looking
have.
at height
Yeah.
differences, that should be able to tell you.
So we need an interior elevation. Let's see.
No, wait, well, if you look at the north elevation, the windows to the far left, they look like they're the
Yeah, they
same
do.
elevation.
Yeah,
So I think those are all the same.
yep.
But when you get to the dark gray and the black, those look higher. Yeah, those look higher than
Yes.
the red brick ones.
It's difficult to tell. Yes.
Well, we can ask the
These are good
architect.
questions for the architect. Yep.
Yeah.
If I can,
We're almost at that point, but
let me just,
did you have anything
I
else?
don't think Eric Nicosia is with us today, but Rob Gito might be able to answer
Okay.
some of those questions.
Want to go through anything else, Jen, on the bottom of the last page?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I think we talked about the ARC meeting, which hasn't
Mhm.
happened yet. The
We
next-
did. The applicant's aware that we don't have a bond amount yet, but that will be, that will, I'm sure, be submitted at some point. Per usual, we usually require dumpster details. We know that this applicant has the nicest looking dumpsters in the village, dumpster enclosures.
Okay, it looks like Eric Russo and Rob are in the waiting room.
yes,
It was just a chat message on the
yes,
bottom.
they've been in the whole time. So whenever, if you would like me to bring them in, whenever you're ready, I can.
Hey, could you just ask Rob if that 106 apartment, is it physically on the ground or is it slightly above the ground?
Sure, let's bring them into the meeting and they can
That's
answer it.
a good point to do that.
Let me just open my other pen. Bring Robin and I'm bringing Eric Russo in as well.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Eric will probably just be a phone number. I don't know if we're going to see.
Yeah, we see the phone number.
Okay. Barbara, how you doing? By the way, everybody.
Hi.
Barbara, to answer that question, I'm almost positive those two units are on the ground level, but you are correct. They do share a separate entrance. So they'll just be two unique apartments that will have their own separate entrance.
Okay, because my feeling is if they're on the ground, then any kind of screening is much more effective than if it was a little bit higher up. And the screening shown on the plan looked like it would be adequate for those two apartments.
Yeah, I'm almost positive. I just we'll have to double check for Eric Makosha. He's away, so he couldn't be here with us. But I'm pretty sure they are. And yeah, the screening will be substantial. Also, we want everybody on both sides of the screening to have their privacy.
The way that
Rob,
Tony described it to me was everything on the lower level was all at the same level. It wasn't that one was raised up or down. But as Rob's pointing out, we can confirm it with Eric.
Well, the thing I was thinking of is because that ground slopes, to make it level doesn't mean that those two apartments were actually physically on the ground because of the slope, that they might have been slightly raised. But I understand what you're saying.
If they are raised, it'll be slightly. It wouldn't be anything like the hills for those two units.
Okay. Very good.
We'll confirm.
Thank you.
In response to your other question earlier, when I sent Jen, Eric Nicosia last week sent the plans that you're looking at, the revised plans. And those plans, when we presented them, we were asking for your board to look at them and tell us which set you preferred. The applicant was willing to go either way with the first set that was submitted or the second set, because what we put in the email has that Gil Anderson had looked, and on the March 11th Planning Board work session, looked at the project elevation, said that he liked the design, thought a great job had been done, but would prefer to see less black on the turret. Architectural Review Committee said they would like lighter colors on the elevation. So that's why we offered the choice of two different elevations. But the latter elevation has more glass, has white fenestration, and it has lighter colors going through it than the other one, which is why we then decided that since Jen called me and said the preference was that, we proceeded to go get the samples for the elevation you're looking at tonight, not the samples from the prior elevation that was submitted and discussed on March 11th. Okay. I think that responds to your question.
Okay, so you're waiting for the samples and then the ARC will weigh in on comments on that.
Right. Now, according to what I was told, they should be in by the end of this week. And then we're going to pass them along to the Building and Planning Department. In addition, as to the questions about Eric Nicosia, I'm sorry, Pat Lenahan talking about the reports. Pat and Rob knows that Pat has gone out to look at the various existing projects to come up with parking counts as you requested at the last meeting. And he's looking at the numbers as was also suggested for other transit orient. And he's planning on having that information available to you by the end of this week.
Good.
So I know he's been out there. Rob can tell you, I believe he's been there 3 times. Rob, you can.
No, I know for the rail property for the hills, he went this past Wednesday night at like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So like you guys said, when everybody's home. And then he was going, I didn't talk to him today, but we had set up, you know, we put keys and stuff for him to go on Saturday, also at 11 or 12 at night. So we're going to get a good mix of a weekday when everyone's home and on a Saturday as well. Access, because he's going into the garages as well to count all the cars and, you know, do a real thorough review.
Okay, good.
The
Rob,
other point.
I'm sorry, is that going to include the guest parking lot that's in the Linden Street
Yeah,
parking? Okay.
Correct. He even looked at the cars at Linden, you know, because we give our tenants parking tags just to see if there were any cars, if they do belong to us. And we also wrote down the plates to see if they match up with plates we have on file, if they happen. But yeah, he looked at the lot. He knows the lot, our surface parking on site, and then the 2 garages.
Okay, thank you.
Then the other point that you were discussing, I mentioned it to Jen earlier today when I spoke with her, and it talked about the size of the office retail space on the ground level. And what Rob and I had been discussing with Eric Nicosia is that we would try and increase the retail space in its square footage and try and get closer to 2,000 square feet. And then that would also be looking at the lounge or game room area that would be remained, but also would be reduced in size. We're waiting for comment back. Eric said that it could be addressed. There was no building or fire code issue for that. This way it could either be 1 or 2 tenants having somewhere close to 1,000 square feet each.
Okay.
Well, yeah, to further clarify, you know, we feel that these amenities, obviously, we've told you guys how we felt about retail. And it's not just a COVID thing. It's been this type of trend prior to COVID. But we understand, you know, the board's wishes. And so we're trying to get creative here. But we, at the same time, a game room or a second lounge is very important for us for leasing these apartments. So what we're looking at is it possible, you know, we have some of that crawl space in the basement. If we could utilize some of that space for a game room, you know, we don't need big windows or anything like that. So to move it downstairs, it'll be with like the fitness room and the outdoor patio. And that way, you know, hopefully everybody's happy. A compromise that will hopefully work for everyone. So that's what we're looking into.
And then Cindy was kind enough to respond last week to our request for FOIL records for Thorn, because at that point, we were thinking that the fire department, the Port Jeff Village Fire Department, wanted that Thorn Lane be widened. So we were having our surveyor try and look at that, and he had requested various documents, which Cindy gave us. And then when we saw the comments and spoke to Jen, the issue was, no, they're not worried about the widening of Thorn. They just wanted to make sure that there was proper access from Thorn into the facility. So it was put on pause because if the fire department didn't want it widened, we decided we weren't going to go and look at that. We would just be responsible for the curb and the sidewalk on our side of the street unless somebody else came back to us and suggested that we needed to do something else.
Okay. Now, just to clarify, the plans that came in Friday, are they reflective of the lessening of the black treatment on the turrets, or?
The
Yes.
plans that came in Friday is the plans that we would like to go with, based on the comments we received, given
Great.
what we've heard from the ARC and also from Gil Anderson. So
I
based
think-
on that, the plans were revised.
The plans that I received on Friday, though, show a game room.
Correct.
Yes, the
This
discussion-
all just came about,
Today,
yeah, today, Friday, like late
Okay.
Friday, just trying, after we got your initial feedback, just trying to think out of the box how we could make this potentially work for everybody. So that's.
we haven't submitted revised plans that speak about what we're talking about just now. That was, if you recall, that was a suggestion you had made and talked about how we needed to address retail office space and how our percentages were off. And so Rob and I were discussing between us what could make it work for us in terms of the design of the project. And as was said at the last presentation, we need to keep amenities there for the tenants, because the reason people come to our projects is because the amenities are offered are things that they find are enticing them to say, let's rent here because it has nice aesthetics. It also has amenities that we want to utilize. So without giving up something, we were trying to figure out if the board was going to consider expanding office retail space, then allowing us to keep game room or lounge on the lower level and utilize some of the space that's there that does not be utilized to accommodate and compromise between your request and ours.
Okay.
No, I think it's a proposal definitely worth looking at.
Thank you.
Okay.
There's the smile.
Any other
I always
questions
smile.
for Rob or Eric?
Rob, go ahead.
No. I think we covered everything you guys brought up that you had some questions on that, some stuff we have to wait for Eric Nicosia, obviously, to
Right.
give his
In
feedback.
the email that I sent on Friday, I also brought up the issue that Jen was talking about earlier about the streetscape and the setback and the concern about trees. And Eric Nicosia has designed it so that there's 5 foot along Main Street. But then there becomes a question according to
Along Main
Pat
or
Lanahan-
Thorn?
On Main. We talked on Main. The
You have to have a
question-
5-foot sidewalk.
Yeah, I know, but when you and I had spoken, I told you that the DOT had concerns and expressed concerns to Pat Lanahan about where underlying gas mains, cables, electric work. So where lanterns could be placed and where grass could be and how things could be situated. We would go with whatever applicant didn't have a firm position. We'd go with those recommendations that were jointly shared, beneficial, and determined by DOT and you. So the plan may show you something, but if that's not what you want on Main Street and Route 112, we'll go with whatever the DOT and you come back and suggest.
Okay.
Applicant is not averse to accommodating whatever those concerns are. And then in the email, you also received, you wanted the revised LEAF, which you got. And the drainage and grading plans, I think, are coming this week from Eric Nicosia. At this point, that's what I have and have been told.
That's fine.
Okay, well, it looks like you're being very responsive in what we've asked for. We're kind of running out of time almost before the public hearing because we have to, you have to submit and then we have to review, but at least we're heading in the right direction. And I don't think anything could have been done any quicker in terms of the submission, so.
The other thing is we're trying to get everything to you by Thursday. I know that is something that Eric and Pat Lenahan are trying to do. And I remember seeing, Jen, I thought you sent me Suffolk County Planning Commission comments that said it's a matter of local determination.
Mhm.
And they had some statements about what they saw, but they weren't making them requirements for the project. They were just things to consider.
Right. And I neglected to send them the traffic study, which I can or can't do. And I don't think that they realize that the entire seeker review, doesn't apply to this project, that we are really just looking at one particular impact that wasn't covered under the general EIS.
Okay.
And I think Eric, in designing the project, was trying to provide and allow for the greatest side yard distances that could be provided between neighbors and what's going on there.
Yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction. Any board members, any comments, questions? Okay.
Well, I just wanted to say I appreciate the new elevations and that the responsiveness to that. I mean, they look very nice. So
Thank you.
How amenable is the applicant to a very generous landscape buffer on North Country Road, which is doable? And a similar project that actually I should let the planning board know. I think there's a pre-construction meeting tomorrow for Conifer. So they have their building permit and are.
I did
getting
notice
started.
the site is fenced.
But they have a similar long expanse, unobstructed, protected southern exposure, and they will be planting deciduous trees to provide shade in the summer. And
How wide is their landscape buffer?
theirs can't be. They don't have the sidewalk. It's not 5 feet. But they're also not on an arterial busy street. They're on what will be a smaller one-way road called Station Street. So there are some things that are different, but I think the idea of providing shade and pedestrian comfort next to the road rather than next to the building, emphasizing, the landscaping next to the building is important.
I don't have a plan in front of me, Jen. You have the plan. How wide is the buffer there now that's being proposed? You have the plan. I don't have a plan with me.
I do.
Couldn't fit it in my bathing suit.
Wait, where is your bathing suit? Right now, yes, I did look at this. It hasn't changed since the last. So I think it's, sorry.
China. It's
Looks like it's 3 feet, but I'll let you know.
Are you talking from the property line or are you talking from the
curb.
curb line?
Curb. So, you assume the curb is 6 inches and.
So those are 2 trees there that are on the curb line?
Right. I'm suggesting that it's scaling at sort of 3.5 feet, that it be widened to 5 feet, where you really can get a nice, robust trees, shrubs, lanterns. I know that there are a number of things that have to, stay. There are hydrants and poles, but that would also then you could have a 5-foot sidewalk, and the 2.5-foot landscaping that's proposed within the right of way would essentially flip to the street side, and you'd still maintain, I think Eric is proposing 2 feet at the nearest point to the sidewalk, for the bays that project along North Country Road.
Rob and I would have to talk to Eric and
Yeah,
see what he
We'll
could
have to
do.
take a look. I mean, I just first thought, I think you'd want it, it's just because it is such a busier road. I don't think you want to draw more people towards the road. To keep
Right.
them closer to the building might be,
That's why I'm proposing a much wider planting strip along the road.
So yeah, she's suggesting taking this extra 2 feet you have here and putting it on this side of the sidewalk so that pedestrians are protected from the road and there's more plantings here.
Right. And it will help ensure that the plants thrive. I mean,
well, no, not with snow removal.
And what about, yeah,
That's
I mean, I
snowbird,
remember
right?
seeing. a
we don't
comment.
have we do have some snow removal. I think it's worth
Jen, I'm going to
looking
take
at.
you in my car. You're going to go to all of our shopping centers and look at our plantings along the curb cuts. And
I already remember seeing comments from, it was either the state or from your office or Pat Lenahan, where everybody was concerned about snow and snow removal and what would be tolerant and how it could be handled.
And I think
And-
that involves a careful selection of plantings, but I think widening the landscaping strip will help trees, and trees will survive snow removal, and will help the trees thrive. And there are grasses, there are plantings that will also survive salt and snow removal. I think it will just take
We can
some
go and look.
exploration.
We'll look into it.
Good.
We can look into it because on the section, and we'll talk to the state, because on the state roadway, on
I'm
Route
not talking about
112.
the state roadway. I know.
No, I know that, but what I'm saying to you is, we can go back to the state, because on the state roadway on Route 112 in the Bedford area, they have plantings down the middle of the new lanes that they've added. So we can take a look at that with Pat Lenahan.
I think
And
that's
Eric-
the sort of invasive dune grass.
It's,
It looks terrible.
it's, as they say, it's shrubbery, so we'll see what we can do.
We'll see. Yes, but I'm hoping that you'll be open to exploring this.
Oh, we're always open.
Good.
You didn't hear no come out today.
I did not.
You didn't hear yes either. but that's okay.
Not yet.
Looking into it is a good response.
I thought
Yes.
so.
Anybody else? Any planning board members have any comments?
I'm not an arborist, but even if a 5-foot planter, if you put a tree in the middle, that's 2.5 feet off the curb. When that tree grows, those limbs are going to be on North Country Road. And then you're going to have everybody cutting it down. And
Nope,
you
I
know,
beg
the worst.
I beg to differ. We will find some with upright habits.
All right.
No, that's
How's that?
absolutely a concern. But
With the right species
mhm.
of tree.
See
I
this.
spent a lot of time last week walking around Brooklyn looking at their trees at the curb line.
Oh, don't pick Brooklyn. Brooklyn's a bad place to look. It's in Manhattan, another bad place to look. We'll look into it.
Actually, New York City street tree specifications are pretty good.
Any other board member comments? Okay. Okay, we look forward to your submissions by the end of the week, and we'll see you again on the public hearing on April 8th.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you. For your
Thank
time.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, anyone else have anything?
Yeah, I have a question about the public hearing. Because it is Zoom, is the applicant sending out those notifications that there's, to the people within 200 feet, that there is going to be a public meeting and it's going to be on Zoom?
They
Yes.
should be, yeah.
They are
Yeah,
required, otherwise you have to postpone the meeting if they don't do that. And
Yeah.
I guarantee you, Eric Russo will be all over that.
No, I understand. I just feel that if, for some reason, I think a lot less people will show up for the Zoom than they would for a public, in-person meeting, but I don't know. I'm taking a
Oh.
guess on that.
I was hoping it would be the opposite, but never know.
You never know. I keep on missing the trustees meetings because I keep on saying, oh my God, it's Monday, I forgot, and
Oh,
rather than having to get into a car to go. So,
Yeah, I'm not positive on public hearings, what the village has been doing, but you got to keep the comment period open for if somebody watches and then they have time to mail in a comment.
well, they've been taking down the public meetings fairly quickly. So I've already said, oh my God, I missed that meeting. And when I've gone back to YouTube to find it, gone. And you have to request directly to the village for a link.
Yeah.
That's, I wish they would keep it up, but apparently not.
I think it's considered kind of like a public meeting. Normally, if you're there, you're there. And if you're not, you can get the meeting minutes, you can get the after report, but yeah, you can always request them and they are saved actually. But my experience with the zoning board, who every meeting is a public hearing, is that we're getting, the neighbors are still, if they're interested, coming and listening and commenting. And often we get written comments as well as having them show up into the Zoom meeting.
Okay, that's good to hear.
and something just occurred to me in relation to our discussion with Eric and Rob about using some of that ground floor for a game room. But is that going to be something they have to get a variance for? Because then it's going to be 4 stories.
I thought he said they were going to put it in the basement where the fitness room was.
Our code just makes a distinction. Once a certain amount of the floor level is above, I think it's 4 feet. It becomes another story.
Because, I mean, I don't know how everyone else feels, but to get the larger retail, I think it would be worth looking into to have a larger retail space and also to have the access from the parking. And I think that's what Eric was talking about, was you give a little, or you were trying to work, but come to an agreement. So I didn't know, without seeing those elevations, I don't know if that's throwing them into a zone where we can't work.
Right. No, and I will take a look at
Okay.
exactly where that
If it might,
falls.
because we
No,
can
you
only
make
do
sense.
so much without.
But I think that was Rob's point when he said that it doesn't need huge windows, was this idea that maybe they could come up with something where it was partially underground. It wouldn't meet the story requirement.
I just wasn't sure where it was.
He said it was on the same level. Sorry. He said it was on the same level as the fitness room. And he mentioned
That's the
the basement crawl space.
Right. So
But the
as
basement is really the first floor when you go north.
correct. So they can only go north just
Yeah.
so far before it becomes a story.
Okay.
Oh.
So,
I'll send you the code section that talks about it.
okay.
Okay, so I'm sure we'll talk more about the public hearing at the work session before the public hearing on April 8th. Because we'll probably start at, did we pick a time for that? I think we did, right? For the work session
Is
on?
it 6?
6. We set it for 6 work session and 6:30 public
That's right, we're
hearing.
trying to be consistent
Right,
with the times. So that'll be 6, so we'll have a half hour to talk if we need to about the public hearing. Anyone else have anything? Okay, I guess we'll have some submissions coming in and we'll see if we can maybe start looking at them. Jen's smiling because she can't wait. Got Got a bundle on our desk already from Friday.
Yeah,
All right, so we'll do what we can
keep
before the
coming.
8th, and I'm sure we'll have I'm sure it's going to be a pretty long hearing in terms of discussing some of the items and also the submissions that come in. And I don't know that if we have materials on time, I don't know if the ARC is going to be able to have some comments back by the 8th, but we'll
Well,
see.
that was why I wanted, you know, to schedule their meeting, because last time they were exceptionally good at
Yes,
turnaround time. And I'd like to give them a little more time this time.
that
So
would be nice.
we'll see.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I guess we'll see everybody on the 8th.
On the 8th.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Happy
Thanks,
Easter, happy
everyone. Happy
Passover.
Easter. Yeah.
Happy Passover, happy Easter.
Easter.
Yes.